Mr. Humphreys, are you free?
I'm free.
Forward, please.
Mind the door.
Are you being served, sir? I'm Humphreys, and I'm free. Are you being served, sir? What would you like to see? If you'd like some swimming trunks, we've got them plain or spotty. We've also got some see-through that really tan your...
Beachwear.
Oh, these are gay. There's plenty round the back. And if you'd like a bit of flash, then try a plastic Mac.
Are you being served, sir?
I'm Humphreys, and I'm free.
Are you being served, sir?
What would you like to see?
Thank you, madam. And I assure you, when you're playing tennis, you won't even notice your new girdle. It's only when you try to breathe that it causes problems. Well, anyway, Mrs. Purvis and me didn't fancy going overseas this year. Fiji's getting very common, you know.
Oh, we're going there this year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so we decided that we'd go on a camping holiday to Mildura.
Didn't you get into a lot of trouble from all those young men campers?
Well, no, not at all. It was quite hot and we sat around in our nighties with our flaps wide open. And nobody bothered us at all, except the mozzies.
Sounds very boring.
Oh, no, it wasn't. There was something going on all the time. We had a sort of variety show on a Wednesday, and they had this man that hypnotised people.
Oh, was he good?
Oh, well, he got me, and it appears I was doing all sorts of silly things. Look. Here's a picture.
Well, hang on. You're standing on your head.
I know. If I hadn't seen that picture, I'd never have believed it.
Lucky your seams were straight.
And here's one of me when he got me to do the can-can. And that's just after at the first aid post. And all through the show, every time he clicked his fingers, everybody in the audience blew a raspberry.
Can I help you, sir?
No, that's the gentleman I want to see.
That's our Mr. Humphreys. Mr. Humphreys, a customer for you. The gentleman asked for you personally.
Fancy. What can I do for you, sir?
I'm going to show you something that's going to shock you.
Hang on a minute, I'll put my glasses on. I'm as ready as I shall ever be. Does this sort of thing happen often in Australia? What exactly am I supposed to be looking at?
This jumper. Before I washed it, it came down to here. Look where it ended up.
Did you wash it yourself?
As a matter of fact, I did. You assured me it was drip dry.
Were you the drip that dried it, sir?
Get on with your work, Mr. Randall. Did you use lukewarm water?
Yes.
Did you use a mild detergent?
Yes.
Did you use soft water?
Yes.
Did you hang it up to dry?
Oh, I did.
Well, that's where you went wrong. You should dry it flat out on a towel in some warm sunlight, round about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Preferably with a nice easterly breeze blowing. I suggest you go home and do that. If you have any trouble, don't hesitate to bring it back straight away. Good morning.
Good morning.
That was brilliant, Mr. Humphreys.
Oh, male customers are easy, Mr. Mankiewicz. Just the way you handle them.
Well, you should know. I must confess, Mr. Mankiewicz, the way he dealt with that customer was pure poetry to watch. Well, it wasn't too bad for a pommy.
You're telling me nothing, Mr. Randall. I've taken a particular fancy to Mr. Humphreys since he arrived here. A silver tongue, a golden smile, a warmer. You could have a great career with the right person behind you.
Would you mind changing places with me, Mr. Randall?
Attention, everyone. Gather round. Mr. Dunkley would like to address you.
I'd like to address him and post him.
This is young Mr. Bones' latest idea for updating our operations. This is a new security wage dispenser. Perhaps you would explain, Cocker?
Certainly, sir. Well, now, the first thing we do is to take your staff identity photographs from the files and stuff them in the machine. The integrated circuits then proceeds to scan you, compares you with the identity photograph. And if, in fact, you are who you say you are, your salary will be duly deposited in the payout tray. All right? Very good. Who's first?
I'll go first.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Ready? I am pressing the button now. The comparing is now going on.
Do not pay out. Do not pay out.
There you go. Now I expect you're all wondering why the integrated circuits have not paid out.
I was wondering why the integrated circuits have not paid out, weren't you, Mr. Rand?
I was definitely wondering why the integrated circuits had not paid out, Mr. Humphries.
I shall investigate the identity photograph to see if there is a reason. Well, there is the reason. You're in fancy dress.
I am not in fancy dress. That photograph was taken for the Boone Brothers Operatic Society's production of The Pirates of Penzance. Oh, is there not one reason?
Hang on, Waggers. All you got to do, mate, is to get dressed up like that and you'll get your pay.
It may surprise you to know that I don't happen to have my pirate's costume with me.
She'll be right. Here. You can use this as an eye patch.
And these'll do for your hat.
Well, if you think every time I get my salary I'm going to parade around with a bra in my eye and a pair of knickers on my head, you've got another thing coming.
Oh, well, I mean, it's up to you, mate. Do you want your pay or don't you?
What have you got there, Mr. Mankiewicz?
Oh, it's a little business I run on the side. I can't live on what they pay me here, so I run a little agency.
What sort of an agency?
Oh, a hard-class employment agency. I find positions like a top-line salesman like yourself.
Seems to pay off very well.
Oh, I do it very cheap. I just take the first week's wages. $250.
Who's that from?
The new head of stationery and greeting cards at Lally and Willits. And he's only a young man, like yourself. What do you knock up here?
I beg your pardon.
I mean, what do you earn? Do you know what I could get you at Myers?
Well, I've heard rumours, but tell me. What, just for selling things?
People who haven't got what you've got are getting it.
Why aren't you getting it?
Because I haven't got what you've got.
I don't like to ask this, Mr. Mankiewicz, but what is it I've got that nobody else has?
You've got charm and vitality and personality and experience and youth.
Oh, that, yes. Oh, well, I've got that. Yeah. Well, some of it.
Now, please don't misunderstand me. Don't think I'm touting for custom. I'm not that sort of person at all.
Oh, of course not.
Would you like me to make some inquiries on your behalf?
No, well, as my old scoutmaster used to say, there's no harm in asking.
Well, of course not. When did your old scoutmaster say that?
Shortly after he told me that I got charm, vitality, personality, experience, and youth.
Well, look, I'm sure you wouldn't mind putting our association on an official basis, eh?
Anytime you like.
In that case, if you just sign here. And here. 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 Your initials there. And one final signature just there. Here. Well, I think that covers everything.
Don't I get a copy?
No. When you sign there, do you agree not to have a copy of the agreement? But if you've got any queries, don't be afraid to ask.
May I have a private word with you about what we was discussing?
You can speak freely in front of Mr. Humphries. I'm handling him now.
Well, is anything happening?
Well, I've got feelers out at French & Sons for head of ladies' foundations and a very good response for the position of head fitter at Victor.
Victor make lawn mowers?
No.
Are they in underwear as well?
No, they make lawn mowers. But the money's very good.
Well, I don't see myself doing mechanical jobs. One has standards, you know.
It's $250 a week.
Motor mowers or push along?
I brought you a chocolate bicky, Mr. Mankiewicz.
Oh, thank you, Miss Buxton.
Any news yet?
Well, I sent your photos off with the description of your experience to date, but so far the only reply has been in bedding at $300 a week. I turned it down.
Well, what for?
Because the bedding was in Cairo and you was on sale or return.
Is Mr. Mankiewicz handling you, Mr. Rand?
No, not that I've noticed, but he has promised me your job after you've gone.
I should have thought a young man like you would have had your sights on higher things.
Well, I have. You see, when I tell them who's knocking off all their staff, I'll have Mr. Mankiewicz's job.
More hot coffee, Mr. Mankiewicz.
Oh, thank you, Diana. Right up to the chip.
Thanks to you, I started as head tosser at the Gay Hussar Pancake House on Monday.
You never told me that was going.
On this phone call for you. Oh, now don't get up. Amanda's bringing it over to you.
It's a personnel department of Lally and Willett. Thank you very much for finding me this job.
Thank you.
You're a busy little bee, aren't you?
The McVitie Employment Agency. Mr. Mankiewicz speaking. Oh, hello, Harry. Now, I've had no news about your appointment, Harry, but Myers have promised a firm reply by Thursday. Now, what have you got for me? You like the sound of Mrs. Crawford. Good.
I like the sound of Mrs. Crawford. It's the sight of Mrs. Crawford that's a problem.
Well, I'll tell you, Harry, she's a very beautiful lady. Age?
30-ish.
It's a senior position, Mrs. Crawford. They're looking for someone older than that.
Oh, well, tell them a lie and say 40-ish.
What? They want someone around 50.
Now's your chance to tell the truth.
Well, I won't tell you a lie, Harry. I couldn't lie to you. She'd pass for 50, yes. What's her what like? Oh, big. Oh, very big. In fact, very big indeed.
Mr. Mankiewicz, what are you talking about?
Personality, Mrs. Crawford. Well, she won't take less than 200 a week, Harry, so the ball's in your court. Now, I've just taken on a new client. His name is Humphreys. I'm very excited about him. He's right up your street. He's an executive sales type. He's got charm, vitality, personality, experience.
And youth.
Oh, yes, and youth. Is he a what? Oh, no. Well, I don't think so. Well, he's never shown any signs of it, but maybe. Mr. Humphreys, you're not a militant trade unionist, are you?
What, with suede shoes, I'd be laughed off the platform.
Well, anyhow, see what you can do, right? Well, I've sown the seeds. Now all we have to do is to await results. Goodness me, is that the time? We'll have to be getting back to work.
That's a nice watch you've got, Mr. Mankiewicz.
18 carats, given me by a very satisfied client.
Really? Oh, there's an inscription on it. Thanks for everything. I couldn't have done it without you. Tammy Thrilled regards Mal.
Your letter, Mr. Byrne.
Oh, I haven't got my glasses.
Well, shall I guide your hand?
Would you? You're very good at that, aren't you?
Now, there we are. B-O-N...
I know how to spell it. I'm not dirty, you know.
Your new spectacles have arrived from the optician, Mr. Byrne. I thought you might like to see if they're all right.
Oh, that's a big improvement.
And these are your new, stronger reading glasses. Here's the mirror.
We're not having an earthquake, are we?
No, sir.
Oh, I don't like this pair. They make me look like an old Poof!
Oh, no, they don't. They make you look like Elton John.
That's no comfort.
Now, pay attention, Mr. Bone, and let's see how much you can read.
I can read A. The rest in Polish.
Mr. Bone, please concentrate. Now, that's written on the bottom.
Barnes, Cottontails. Wash my hands in lukewarm water.
Oh, shall I come back later?
No, come in.
Can we have a word privately?
I've already had a look at that. Get on with it.
It's like this, sir. During last week, Captain Wagstaff came aware that a certain member of the staff was making certain telephone calls to a certain store about certain other members of the staff, the result of which we are fairly certain that certain members of the staff may be leaving us. Mr. Bone. Mr. Bone. He's gone to sleep.
I'm not surprised.
Mr. Bone. Mr. Bone. What do we do now?
Oh, once he's dropped off like that, he's gone for an hour.
Oh, I'll do it for you, sir. Drat, my suspender's gone again.
What did you...
We fear that Mr. Humphreys has been suborned by Mr. Mankiewicz.
Well, he's been asking for it, hasn't he?
The thing is, what do you want us to do about it?
Oh, you deal with it, Dunkley.
Well, the ball seems to have lodged itself firmly in your court, Mr. Dunkley.
Yes, it's a bit of a facer, isn't it?
It's one of the penalties of being an executive, sir.
Yes, what would you do in my position?
Well, I would consider the matter from Mr. Bone's standpoint. He has three courses open to him. Sack them, wait for them to resign, or pay them more money.
I wouldn't do that.
There's one alternative you haven't thought of, Wagstaff. If I hold my horses and do nothing, it may all blow over.
If I may say so, sir, one has to be an executive of your caliber to think of a solution like that.
Thank you, Wagstaff.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, it's all fixed.
What's happening?
Ladies, where?
Could I speak to Mrs. Crawford, please?
Who shall I say is calling?
The McVitie Agency.
Here, it's your agent on the phone.
Mrs. Crawford here.
Mrs. Mankiewicz speaking. It's all fixed.
He's got me a new job. What is it?
Would you come to my office immediately, please?
Of course. I'm just going over to Mr. Mankiewicz's office.
Will you please tell me what's happening, because I can't stand secrets.
Well, I'll put you both in the picture. You're both going to Lally and Willits.
Oh, isn't that exciting?
You, Mr. Humphreys, will be manager of the unisex clothing department.
That should confuse you, Mr. Humphreys.
I won't know which way to turn.
And you, Mrs. Crawford, will be in charge of the Pussy Shampoo Parlour.
I shall be in my seventh heaven.
Recognition at last, Mrs. Crawford. Pampered, powdered, purring pussies everywhere.
And your salary will be...
No.
What about mine? A month?
No, a week.
Let's resign.
Hold on. You're forgetting your severance pay. If you resign, it'll be trivial. Now, you must get them to sack you, then you threaten them with the Industrial Tribunal for unfair dismissal, and we get a settlement.
We?
Clause 10.
Miss Paxton, Mrs. Crawford, will you please return to your counters? Can't you see that Mrs. Maxwell's waiting? She's the wife of one of the directors.
Of course she is. I shall be delighted to give her the service she requires.
Now, if you want the sack, all you've got to do is be rude to Willie Wagstaff.
Oh, what a good idea.
Mr. Humphreys, tidy that counter.
I've just got one thing to say to you, Captain Wagstaff.
And what is that, Mr. Humphreys?
I'm going to tidy my counter.
Good afternoon, madam. Were you requiring attention?
Yes. I'm bringing the skirt back. When you get it out in the daylight, the colour is foul. It's far too expensive, and it rides up when I sit down.
Well, the colour glows with your blotchy complexion. It's too expensive because you're a mean old bag. And it rides up when you sit down because you've got a great, big, fat bum.
What do you mean to say you don't deny any of these words, Mrs. Crawford?
Not one syllable?
She said it all, and that's the truth.
Thank you, Miss Buxton.
Extraordinary. We will now pass to Mr. Humphreys. It would seem, according to Captain Wagstaff, that you served Lavinia Effingham Fuchs with 2 small F's. She's also one of our best customers.
I did, sir.
I will now ask Captain Wagstaff to repeat the remarks he overheard you make to her.
On approaching the customer, Mr. Humphreys was heard to say, "Hello, Dolly, baby. You've got the best pair of boobs I've seen since the confessions of Swedish Emmanuel's window cleaner."
Did you say those words?
I did, sir.
My oath he didn't. I heard him, and I'll tell you what, he winked too.
I did. Like that.
Mr. Humphreys, I'm surprised you even saw such a film.
I was under therapy at the time.
He then said, "How about meeting me in the park behind the bandstand and we'll pitch a little woo?"
Pitch a little woo? What film did that come from?
Gold Diggers of 1938.
This is an extraordinary set of circumstances.
Are you going to sack us?
Well, as far as you're concerned, Mrs. Crawford, I have a letter here from Mrs. Maxwell, who, as you probably know, is a leading member of Morning Glory, a religious sect which requires of its followers complete honesty. You apparently are the only person who is completely honest she has ever met. As a result, she encloses 2 tickets for their next meeting.
Well, you've got to sack me. I mean, you can't have people walking about saying the things I say.
What are you talking about? I've been doing it for years.
It would be rather difficult to sack you, Mr. Humphreys, in view of this brief note from the lady in question. Tell Humphreys 5:30 behind the bandstand, and I'll take all the woo he can pitch.
I'm sorry, Harry, but young Mr. Bone got wind of your offer, and as a result, he's given new contracts to Mr. Humphreys and Mrs. Crawford. Goodbye. Well, did you get your new contracts?
And not only that, we've got our new wages.
50% rise.
Good, I'll have those.
What are you talking about?
Well, that's our arrangement. On the signing of a new contract, I get the first week's wages. Page 4, paragraph 6J. It's all written down.
I'll soon deal with that.
But you can't do that.
Sue us.
Isn't that typical of people today?
Yes, you try and do a good deal for them, and they swindle you, don't they, Mr. Mankiewicz?
They do, Mr. Randall.
Do you know what you need, Mr. Mankiewicz?
What?
A good agent.
Yeah.
Shall we have a little drink to celebrate before we go home?
I'd love to, Mrs. Crawford, but I've got a pressing engagement.
Behind the bandstand?
I don't pitch my woo in public, Mrs. Crawford. Are you being served, sir? I'm Humphreys, and I'm free. Are you being served, sir? What would you like to see? If you'd like some swimming trunks, we've got them plain or spotty. We've also got some see-through that really tan your beachwear. Oh, these are gay. There's plenty round the back. And if you'd like to fit a flash, then try a plastic mag.